Sixers Fix with Scott Ninnis. Join one of the Adelaide 36ers' favourite sons as we deep dive into everything past and present about one of the most storied franchises in the NBL. It's Sixers Fix, your Adelaide 36ers podcast.
Hello and welcome to the first Sixers Fix with Scott Ninnis for 2022. It's been a little while since we've brought you a show, but we haven't missed a lot, as you would have noticed. The 36ers haven't been on court for a little while. We hope that changes as of this Sunday, so we'll talk about all of that on this week's show. We'll hear from the head coach, CJ Bruton, thanks to Sports Card World, as we put all of our listeners' questions to him. I'm Chris Pike. Happy New Year to everybody. But the man that you have all tuned in to hear from, the legend himself, the only man that's involved in every single Adelaide 36ers championship, Scott Ninnis. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Happy Birthday, all of that. How do we find you?
Oh, Happy New Year, Chris. Not sure why you ring me. Is there still a season going on? Is there? It's been, oh, wow. It's been interesting, hasn't it, mate? It's, we've had so much expectation of, this season going ahead full steam, and it's just unfortunately gone from worst to worst. And, we lost a few games. It's happened all around the league. It was great to see a game last night between Brisbane and New Zealand. But
felt strange to actually have a game on, didn't it?
But it was very strange. But, yeah, it's certainly been far and few between, hasn't it?
It has. Yeah, I think we were scheduled to have probably over the last 3 weeks, 20 games I think we were scheduled to have, and I think we ended up having 5. I think we had 2 games there for round 4, 2 for round 5, and 1 just this weekend. So let's hope that the worst is behind us. I know that the league office certainly feels like the worst is behind it now. All of the games scheduled for this upcoming round 7 are still scheduled at this stage. So that includes the 36ers hosting the Tasmania Jack Jumpers on Sunday at the Entertainment Centre. Let's hope it goes ahead, because those games against the Perth Wildcats, they seemed destined to probably never happen now. There's something about that game that just seems like it's destined to never be. That's been cancelled, rescheduled and cancelled probably 3 times now, and now it's not even on the schedule at all.
It's really disappointing. I know the game on December 28th, that game coming out of Christmas that we're having against the Wildcats was, the ticket sales were fantastic. Everyone was really excited about the game going ahead, and obviously there was some COVID cases within the team that is sort of part of the course. But it was just so disappointing. I think everyone was looking at coming out, Christmas and New Year's and things going back to normal. That's not the case now. We're getting 4,000 cases a day, and that was probably, always going to be the case once we open up, although I don't think, by the sounds of it, the state was quite ready for that sort of outbreak, but it has its impact upon everything. I certainly thought my business would get back to some sort of semi-normal, which it hasn't. And it's the same with most, the majority of people out here. It's just been really, really disappointing. We thought we'd move forward once the majority of the population had their vaccinations, and it seems like nothing's changed, which is really unfortunate. But I guess once again, all we can do is be optimistic, hope this game against Jack Jumpers goes ahead on Sunday, and the season comes back with some sort of sense of whatever the new normal is going to be.
All we can do is cross our fingers at this point. We can't do much more. Before we get on to some basketball talk, Scotty, you're one of those, I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate, you can probably tell me, that has a birthday close to Christmas. What was that like for you and the family last year?
Oh, shit house. Being born on Christmas Day is it's a funny thing. Every time I say something to people that my birthday's on Christmas Day, they go, "Oh, you poor thing." As a kid, there was such a big deal made of it because everybody knew that it was a terrible day to have a birthday. There was such a big deal made out of it that it didn't seem like such a bad thing. My grandparents, as a kid, used to give me a half birthday on June 25th, and there was such a big deal made of it on Christmas Day. The other kicker for me too, mate, is my mother's name is Mary. So imagine that as a kid being born on Christmas Day with another mother's name as Mary. Do you reckon I copped a little bit growing up? So what I have done that is over the last 15 odd years is I've celebrated my birthday generally 2 days before Christmas Day on the 23rd of birthday. 23rd December, I get my closest mates together. We have a slap-up lunch somewhere and try and outdo each other with the best bottle of red wine. This year we had to have it on the 21st because Brett Maher's now a fireman. We all have to work around his schedule now, mate. So it's the Golden Child made us have it on the 21st. So we've done that for the last, as I said, about 15 or 16 years, and just that is my birthday now. But this year was a bit different for us. Our youngest, Chloe, had a close contact with COVID at her childcare, so she had to spend, at that point in time, and this is a problem, rules are changing all the time, she had to spend 14 days in lockdown, I suppose. The weird thing was that Rebecca and I could come and go as we wanted to, but so Christmas Day was spent at home just with the family.
Well, you can't exactly leave her home alone, though, can you?
No, exactly, yeah. So, Christmas Day for us was, was not only the most memorable of all time, just having here with the family and trying to explain to a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old why they can't see their cousins and can't see their grandparents and that, and also the fact that they'd already been tested and already been negative, but she's still at the quarantine. So, yeah, it is what it is, mate. Like you get to my age, mate, we stop counting birthdays anyway. So it's about the kids these days, and hopefully over these next couple of weeks before school goes back, we might be able to sort of do a couple of day trips away somewhere and get back to normal.
More importantly, hopefully you can escape the kids for a little bit, can you? I mean, I can't imagine what it's like being cooped up as a family 24 hours, 7 days a week without being able to get any escape from each other.
God help me, mate. That is like that tomorrow they're in the school holiday day at where they go to school. This has been like the countdown to the best day of my life, mate. Having those kids in school for 8 hours and oh, mate, I'll probably just sit home by myself and just be very, very happy and content without having to try and amuse them for 8 hours. So, going back to school at the end of the month is going to be another good date in the calendar as well.
Unless you become like Queensland and have the school year date pushed back a little bit.
Stop it! Don't you curse me like this is serious stuff now, Chris. No, they are going back to school. They have to go back to school for my own sanity.
Speaking of sanity, what helps keeps us sane usually this time of year is having games of basketball to watch, and we've had precious few of them the last few weeks, and I don't think we've seen anything like it. Once we started the season last year, we started it late in January, obviously, but once we started, we were able to push through, and it didn't really have any setbacks. But the last few weeks, I've never seen anything like it in professional sport, where even on the day of a game, we have games being cancelled and postponed to a date where we just don't know when. I mean, we end up with a weekend like this past weekend where we went from having a full schedule of games on Thursday and Friday and Saturday and Sunday and Monday and Tuesday to having one game on a Sunday, and that was all we got. I mean, it's 3 years ago, you would have made a lot of money if you told someone that this was going to happen. You would have been laughed out of the room, but it's a remarkable world that we're now living in.
Yeah, it is, mate. I mean, I don't know what the answer is. I mean, I've said right from the start, I wouldn't want to be the person making the decisions, like whether it be, like from the government level or make decisions on basketball games or tennis games or whatever. But, there's got to come a point where surely we just have to live with it and open up the borders, and that's what we were told about, getting our vaccinations and that we could go back to a normal life. And once again, you want to say about me, but and I'm not just talking about my business, but my industry is screwed right now, as is, the hospitality business and that. There's got to come a point, where we've just got to learn to live with it, because then there's going to be another strain of the virus, another strain. We're all hoping it goes away. But right at this second, this time of the year, I'd be working 25, 26 days in January. As it stands at the moment, I've got 2 days. Yeah. And the government comes out with a $40 million rescue package. I'm eligible for a $1,000 grant. Now, that'll pay my costs for about a week and a half.
Yeah.
It's just, and once again, this is not woe is me, because I know there are people in worse positions than me, and Rebecca's been able to keep her job the whole way through, and Brett and I do our stuff with the 36ers and basketball shade, but there's mum and dad operations that's all they've got, and we're meant to be, supposedly we're meant to be back to a normal life, and it looks like it's in bad a position as we've ever been. So it's disappointing, and I just hope there's light at the end of the tunnel, mate.
I think we all do. So from a 36ers perspective, I mean, it feels like an absolute lifetime ago that they last played, and the unfortunate part is it was such a horrible game that they played the last time they played. That game up in Cairns, it was way back on December 18, so it's going to be pretty much a month that they would have had in between games, and I don't think we did a show after that. I remember talking about how bad the Sydney Kings were a couple of days before this game, and we didn't think anyone could be as bad, but the 36ers found a way to probably be worse. It's a tough game to talk about because it was so long ago, and it's not fresh in our memory banks, but the fact is that they were 40 points down with about 4 minutes to go in that game. They ended up losing by 26, and the feedback from CJ, the feedback from the players is that they all felt like their effort was really poor in that game, and now they've had a month to think about it. How do you deal with hanging that over your head for now so long? The great part about basketball usually is you get to bounce back a couple of days later.
It is. I think it's I think it's an interesting one. I mean, obviously a game like that can really do some damage to you mentally and to your psyche, and that's why you want to have a game quickly to sort of try and turn that around. It can also have the opposite impact that things start going south. You start all that becomes fresh in your memory again.
Well,
so I think I'd like to go with the glass half full now, as far as that game is so long ago. It's I don't think it'll ever be forgotten. I mean, that was as bad a performance as I've seen in the 36ers in a long time, and maybe ever. I don't know. But sometimes you do have games like that. So I think now I was going to say they've had time on the training track. They've probably all been isolated. No, so that's been difficult. But I think their game's far enough removed now that the next time they hit the court, they're just going to be happy to be out there. And I just don't think you can gloss over a game like that either. I mean, they're down by 40 against who most people picked, the team to finish last this year.
And that was assuming the Taipans were at full strength. This was a Taipans team that didn't have two of their best players, Scott Machado and Mirko Jeric as well, and
absolutely. And we made a couple of players look like absolute superstars. A couple of ex-36ers look like
especially
superstars.
Majok Deng and Keanu Pinder. Absolutely.
Yeah, who there just wasn't any pressure on them, and it was such a disappointing game. I don't think there's no way of dressing it up. There were no positives come out of that game. So I just think now that they're going to have probably a couple of days. I spoke to Jamie Pillman last Thursday night, and all of a sudden they'd had a game, playing Illawarra, and Illawarra sprung on them that was meant to be Sunday night, and he was like, we've got to now quickly turn around and scout for that. So that didn't happen.
Yep.
Then they go into the next day. They go into lockdown again, get all sent home from training, and they'll be out just in time to scout for another team. So I cannot even imagine from a playing point of view or a coaching point of view what's that like, because it's unprecedented.
Yeah,
we haven't seen it. We haven't seen this. So it's just going to speak volumes of where the group is, if they've been able to stay tough mentally, and I don't think anyone, if some players are going to be able to deal with that better than others, and we're just got to. You wouldn't even like to know what to predict on Sunday. Mate, I'm just looking forward to getting out of the house and hoping the game goes ahead, and getting to that VIP room and drinking some Jacobs Creek Shiraz, and telling a few stories to Marzi after the game. But it's just one of those things. We just want to see the season get back on track as quickly as humanly possible, and hopefully that starts with a win. Yeah, the weird thing is we win that game with 3-3, and it's it's not doom and gloom. That game against Cairns, it was like, are we ever going to win another game? All of a sudden we could be 3-3 and back on track again.
I guess the worst part about it was that it wasn't the fact that they were outplayed. I mean, you get outplayed from time to time, and you have blowout losses, and that happens. But this was an effort thing. I don't know if I've ever seen a team play with less effort. I mean, and sometimes you get a player who's flat, and he might have a down day, but his teammates pick him up. But it was, I don't know what it was, but it was one of those nights where everyone who hit the court just looked like they had no effort levels, no energy. And I mean, have you ever been a part of a team like that where everyone's kind of that flat on the one night?
I don't think so. I mean, I've been in teams that we've had our ass kicked. I mean, everyone that plays for long enough, we lost the game. We played Canberra in Canberra, and we went back there. Phil Smythe, it was his first game with the 36ers, and we went back in there, and he had his singlet retired along with Herbert Peaches before the game, and it was emotional. We were a pretty decent team. We had. Yeah, we had Mark Davis and I think Robert Rose. Maybe it's before Robert Rose, but we had Mike Mackay and myself, and we had Phil, obviously, a bunch of guys who were in the Boomers, and we went out.
Was that a Cairns team with Jamie Perlman on it still?
A bit before Jamie, I reckon.
Okay.
So we went out and got our hits, and got beaten by 32, and it wasn't an effort thing. We just were completely outplayed, and we just had no answer for them. It's just one of those nights. But you're right. That game against Cairns, once again, I just don't understand that. I don't know what sort of happened, but it just didn't look like they were up to the contest. And as we speak about, and as we know, basketball and sport is mentally the mental component of it is really important. Whether they thought they were just going to waltz into Cairns and win that game, but it was like I said, there was no positive get out of that. That was as bad as it gets, and you have to address it. Like I was involved coaching a couple of games where we lost games from unlosable positions, and you try to gloss over it. You have to address it first, and then you have to put it behind you. But if you just go, that was a one-off and it'll never happen again, I don't think you're really addressing the situation and why it happened in the first place. But it's a very fine line, because you do have to put it behind you as quickly as you can as well.
I tell you what, we've never done this in the last couple of years on the show. We've been through some tough games and in our voting in our Player of the Year award, thanks to Premium Wine Tours, but this has to be a game where no one deserves a vote, do they? We can't give votes for this game.
I'm happy with that. Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. And look, I'm more than happy not to do that, and I don't think anyone would be disappointed in that whatsoever.
I don't think so. But to the great credit of CJ Bruton, the head coach, he was happy to step up and join us for our Ask the Coach segment this week. Scott, thanks to Sports Card World, one of our lucky listeners will also win 5 packs of the brand new NBA Hoops NBA cards, and hopefully you get a Josh Giddey rookie card in that, Scott. So thanks to the support of Sports Card World. We're going to hear from CJ Bruton. If you had the chance to sit down with CJ after that game sometime over the last 3 or 4 weeks, Scott, what would you want to know from him? What would you be hoping to ask him?
I'd get him a very stiff rate scotch, mate, and just what I would say to him is you cannot just go, don't worry, let's put that game behind us. As I just mentioned, and worry about the next game. I think you have to address it. You have to work out why you come out. You shouldn't be down by 40 against anyone in this league. I mean, so I think that you've got to work out the reasons why, but then you do have to put it behind you as quickly as you can. You can't dwell on it. You have to, but to find out what their mentality is, and it's a tricky one. It's a really, really difficult one to have that sort of game, and then to be able to turn that incredibly bad negative into a positive, but that's what needs to happen. And maybe, maybe that time that we've had off, might help that to happen. But it's a tricky one, mate. That's why he's coaching and I'm not coaching, mate. So he give him all the answers, and hopefully he can. Can I just say one thing as well?
Sure.
I mean, we are a shout out to the boys in Sports Card World and Dylan Nunn from Australian Motors Mitsubishi and All Star Photos. And the sponsors that we have. Those Sports Card World boys and Nunny at Australian Motors and L.A. Kelly, they are just awesome to get behind our little podcast here where we wax lyrical and try and come up with something when there hasn't been a game for a month. We really, really appreciate their support.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better. And it's the perfect segue. When we come back here on Sixers Fix with Scott Ninnis, we'll hear from the coach, CJ Bruton, on our Ask the Coach segment, thanks to Sports Card World. Okay, back here on Sixers Fix now with Scott Ninnis, and we're on our weekly Ask the Coach segment with thanks to Sports Card World. We've got a prize to give away. Our friends at Sports Card World are willing to give away 5 packs of the brand new released 2021-22 NBA Hoops Hobby Pack, valued at $75, CJ. And you might even find a Josh Giddey rookie card in there. So as we go through these questions, you'll pick a winner and make somebody a very, very happy listener. First of all, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too, and all the listeners. It's exciting to be, as I said to you earlier when we spoke, it's happy to be here, but definitely excited about the new year and what's ahead.
Fantastic. Thanks, CJ. Now, we've got plenty of questions from our listeners, so let's get straight into it, and we'll start with Nate Turner, one of our favourites, and Nate has asked, how has the team practiced or stayed game ready with the games being postponed? Have you done anything differently than a normal week-to-week training, or is it just business as usual and kept simple and not trying to reinvent the wheel?
Well, definitely not trying to reinvent the wheel, but I feel like where we've been at from the pre-season, which has been, as you might have known, has been interrupted for us. In the sense of I got here late, how much time we really had on the practice together, and guys that have been in and out over time. So we've had to manage bodies and a few injuries along the way to get to where we are right now. And now that when our season started, we had 5 games pretty quickly. The fastest 5 games, I think, this year, or last year now. And then now with COVID hitting us and being at home for 7 days, just to get our legs underneath us and get back on the same page and understanding what's required for us to be successful in our offense and our defensive teams, it's been a blessing in disguise. So not much is, I think it's changed in the day-to-day stuff of what we've done, but having days off and not knowing when we're playing, we've had to manage our health and make sure we've got enough bodies because, again, some guys have been in, some guys have been out. So it's definitely, we've had to manage, but we'll also try to find ways to not reinvent the wheel, but making small-sided games and things that can keep us busy and occupied and keeping our conditioning up to speed.
Very good. Following on a similar path, Kyle Wood has asked, do you feel this COVID break, which unfortunately as of today is now extending another week with the Friday game now pushed back to next Wednesday, do you feel this COVID break has hindered the team or given more time to iron out some creases?
I think it's a double-edged sword, right? Like it does help you and helping us get a little bit closer to having Sunday on the floor, and hopefully everyone's back on deck and Sunday's back practicing with him. So I think it helped us get him back. It's helped us hopefully get our whole team where we are yet to play a game with our full roster all together and to see what that looks like. So that's where it helps. It hinders us not playing any competition games for a number of weeks now. It's like pre-season all over again. You're going out there blind, and while you're practicing against each other, you're thinking you're doing all the right things. You don't know until you play something.
Absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned Sunday. He's jumping out of his out of his boots to get back out there. But he's also got a question for you, CJ. He wants to know, what do you want from your players when you ask them to unlock their brains?
To unlock their brain. Clearly, we've all been taught different ways of playing the game, and I feel like to unlock the skill that everyone has a great skill set, and you don't get to the NBL without having that skill set. And I'm trying to unlock how do I unteach you something that you've been trained to do for a number of years now, and then how to expand your knowledge of here's the spacing on the floor. In a game of basketball, there's 5 dots on the floor on the perimeter. If you watch the NBA, there's 5 spots to play from the 3-point line.
Mm-hmm.
There's normally a 4-out, 1-in concept where there's one guy on the block, which they normally put the biggest post player, and 4 perimeter players. I'm also trying to train guys that play the 3 spot and now play the 4 spot for us. Or play the 4 spot or play the 3 for us right now. With the amount of bodies that I have and the way that this team's been structured, it's trying to find the best way to combat the strengths that we have and then play to our strengths. So for someone like, let's say, Manny Malou, who's been a natural 4-man his whole career, he's now playing the 3 spot. So I'm getting him to unlock his brain by, while you might play the 3, you have the strength of a 4. So I'm not trying to tell you to lose what you have, but play to your strengths. But you need to unlock it of, how do I get to that spot when this is our structure?
It's actually an incredible.
Does that make sense?
No, it's an incredible answer. It was a half tongue-in-cheek question, but I'm very glad I asked it because the answer was fantastic. Couple of tricky ones, but let's get through them. Luke Graham, why is there such a big gap between our best and worst?
Good question. I think from where we've been at, it's kind of baffling for me. But over time enough, one team to think that they're playing their best. I think their effort. I'm more disappointed in our effort in the Cairns game for where we've been all season long, and even the way that we practiced the day after our next session after we beat New Zealand was nothing like that. So it's kind of disappointing in that sense. But also no fatigue and tiredness. But to have everyone on that page for one game, it does happen, but I was kind of disappointed how that all played out. So how do we get on the same page? I think everyone's still trying to learn, and they were trying to do the right thing, but then not do it with the intensity and the effort that's needed to play at game level. I don't know why it's such a big difference at this point in time. I hope that we don't have any more lapses in that phase. So going forward, I don't think you should see a difference in the effort. But as for the difference between playing really well and not playing well, that comes down to each individual giving their best when they're on the floor. And if it's for 3 minutes, if it's for 7 minutes, whatever it may be, competing and playing hard at both ends of the floor.
I'm loving your answers, to be honest, CJ. I mean, you're handling these very, very well, and you're coming up with solutions to everything. You're not just, looking at the negative approach, and I think that's fantastic. N McCure 78, another one of our favourite. Interesting one about Isaac Humphries. Does your current offensive style put him at a disadvantage, or is he still just getting match fit after last season's injuries?
I think I don't think it puts him at a disadvantage. Isaac's a great rim roller. If you remember from last year with Josh Giddey, it wasn't just how many times they threw it to him on the block and he scored. In similar ways that Will Magnay was able to get buckets on the move, catching it with his motor going to the rim. There's not many people that want to get in Isaac's way going to the rim at that pace, and he's able to finish with authority and with finesse around the rim. So he's used to playing that way. Clearly, he's getting back to feeling like himself. And I think at the start of the year, there was always going to be a teething problem. Not a teething problem, it's just more of working through where he's at because of the limited amount of practice that he had from the preseason to playing the first game. And that just comes with time and getting feel. And to go through that, I think he battled and we nurtured that. And while we might not have won 4 out of 5 games, I thought he's come away from the the first 5 games of the season better than I expected.
Mm-hmm.
I've loved the fact that he's been on the floor every day at practice and competing and battling, and he's given it his all every single day as he said he would.
Yep, I totally agree. Okay, now those are the trickiest ones out of the way. A few different paths some of our listeners have taken now. Jack Lewis 333 has asked, what separates the NBL from other leagues across the world to attract young prospects like Soto to prepare for the NBA draft? Why is the NBL and the 36ers particularly becoming so notable for player development for the NBA?
Well, I think I can't take credit for that. I think that's part of it's recruiting, part of it is the NBL and what's gone ahead before. I think from the Ferguson to the Josh Giddey, clearly Melo Ball coming here, the list goes on. Players that have come out to Australia to help get their draft stock high, playing against grown men helps that. The battle tested. Our league is so competitive. Our country as a whole has shown that on the biggest stage, and I think that's allowed the growth for guys like Kai Soto and other younger kids looking at our league. We care about every kid that comes to our program. We continue to work with you not only on the floor but off the floor, and how you need to manage your life and look after yourself, strengthen your body. But it's a country where we're able to. It's a safe place, really, when you look around the world and what's available to you, and we speak English. So I think we tick a lot of boxes for a lot of young kids and their families to see it as a great stepping stone for them to understand how to look after themselves and how an organisation will back you and look after you as well.
Now, you wouldn't be surprised to hear that we've got a question about Kai Soto. It comes from Still Sleep Deprived. Is Kai Soto nearing full fitness with the extra rest from our extended break? I would love to see him impact the game on Friday night. Obviously, now that won't be until Wednesday night.
Yes, he's for 7 days. I think it hurt a lot of our players being behind closed doors, but he's definitely come back, and as he has all pre-season and since I've been here, he's impacted and shown his ability to definitely impact the game, not only on the defensive end, but on the offensive end of, like I said, his ability being so big and dominant around the rim well. And I expect no different coming into Wednesday's game as well.
Fantastic. Couple more. This is a tricky one for you to answer. I don't know what direction you'll take this one in. Who on the current roster would you have line up in your NBL fantasy team?
Well, first of all, I don't play the fantasy league.
Yep. I thought that would be the case.
I mean, I'm in the real deal at this point, and it's, I think, thinking of a fantasy team, you need scoring and you need numbers, and Billy Duffy is a guy that can really shoot the ball, put him in a position to be successful, and needs people to swing for him as well, but he's also a guy that can just get his own bucket. So Billy, at this point of the fantasy basketball, I'm sure that his numbers are up there for our team, and so having him on the list would definitely be one of the guys that I'll put on my roster.
There we go. That was from underdog_K. Now, 2 more. Now, this is an interesting one, and I'm fascinated to get your answer to this. It comes from Skink44. He says, after a very successful journey to a few different clubs as a player and now coach, how do other clubs that you've been part of view the Adelaide 36ers and their fans when they come to Adelaide, especially now having the changes of venue from the old Clipsal Powerhouse, the Adelaide Arena, now to the Entertainment Centre? So basically he's asking, how do other clubs sort of view coming to Adelaide?
Good question. I think that's one for someone besides myself. I mean, from the outside, coming in here, the Adelaide fans are always one of the most knowledgeable in the game, if not the most knowledgeable in the game. They always, there's a different level of noise, right? In Cairns, there's the music that's loud, that generates already hot in a box up there. All about their fans important. For the Adelaide fans, you know that when there's a bad call, they let the referees know about it. There's no issue about that. They cheer their team on. They know that they're the sixth man that helps the team. They're not they don't just become a fan. They participate in the actual game, and that's a difference maker in making Adelaide the powerhouse that they've been. Not only the players that they've had, and the players have thrived off that, and they've been able to showcase a brand of basketball that once they get on top of a team, it was like, okay, now we're in trouble. We need to manage it. Call a timeout. But if the fans stay super loud, you know that, well, they're still engaged. They're waiting on the next bucket to come. They're waiting for the next steal or the next dunk, which can, keep the crowd energized. And so for opposing teams and being an opposing opponent in this venue, it was always take the air out, make sure you move the ball, and use pretty much the whole 24 seconds so that we don't hear the fans for that long.
Yep. Fantastic answer. Last one. This comes from the Fresh Prince of Lincoln. Now, this will mean you've got to call upon your 30-plus years that you've been watching or part of the NBL. And I'm going to say that you can say yourself to answer this if you want to. What player, past or present, in the NBL do you think would fit in this current team and take it to the next level? You can say yourself if you like. You could be a player coach.
Oh, I mean, I would do that in a heartbeat, but I definitely there's a lot of talent that's come through our league, and so there's not really one particular person in mind. If you look at our current roster right now, having a Mario Donaldson type player, if you remember him, he played for Sydney Kings, or even a Steve Woodbury comes to mind. I think that type of player. I know we've had guys like Freddie Hobson and of recent, Lamar Patterson. Those type of guys that can create and play off the dribble, are handy in our competition and have much success in our leagues as well. So, I mean, there's not a particular player, but Mario Jonathan comes to mind. He can play defense, he can shoot the ball. He was a bigger guard, and someone like Steve Woodbury would probably be the other one who was, like a walking triple-double, very athletic, have enough rebound for you, and just control the game from his position as well.
No, perfect, CJ. Well, guess what? We got through all of those, so thank you for your patience with that, and thank you to our listeners that sent them through. Now, as I said at the start, we've got 5 packs of the NBA Hoops hobby packs to give away. It's valued at $75, CJ, thanks to Sports Card World. Whose question did you like the best?
Definitely not Sundays. So you tell Sunday he ain't getting nothing. He deserves to help us get a win. That's what he deserves. So if he's listening, help us in that space, and we'll be grateful. I like I think the question about what do we do, how do we manage our team, and our roster at this point. Well, how we manage it this time during COVID, because it definitely hasn't been easy, but it's something that every team has to go through in every sport, and business for that matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's that's the winner for me.
The first question, is that the one?
That was the first
one. Nate Turner. There you go, Nate. So thanks to Sports Card World, we'll get you your prize. And CJ, before I let you go, how frustrated were you when you found out this morning as we record this that you were going to have to wait another 5 days to play?
Yeah, it was. I like to say I'm super upset. I think the more days we get, it means that we get under our belt. I'm disappointed for our fans because it's been rescheduled twice. This is the world that we live in right now, and I like to think things are going to get better, not only for us as a club, but for all the people in Adelaide and around the globe. And if we keep doing the right things and keep looking after ourselves, that we'll be able to, at some point real soon, that we'll be, if not COVID-free, we'll learn how to deal with this and manage it better.
Yep, let's hope so. Well said, and thanks for joining us, CJ. Good luck Wednesday night. We can't wait to see you back out there.
Look forward to it. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
Okay, back on Sixers Fix with Scott Ninnis. Big thank you to CJ Bruton. Congratulations to our winner as well. And thanks to all the questions. I mean, that segment isn't possible unless our listeners send in a lot of those questions. So thank you to everybody who sent in those, and I hope you enjoyed the answers that you got from CJ. Congratulations to Nate Turner, one of our favourites here on the show, who is the winner this week, as chosen by CJ. But I wanted to follow up, Scott. You're back with us now on the show. The last question we put to CJ was, what player, past or present, from the NBL would he want to put into this current Adelaide team to take them to the next level? I was fascinated by his answer. The two players he came up with were Mario Donaldson, who played at the Sydney Kings with CJ, and Steve Woodbury. Are you surprised by that answer, first of all? And if you had to answer that question, who would you pick off the top of your head?
Oh, look, I was a bit surprised with Mario Donaldson. That sort of caught me off guard a little bit. Steve Woodbury, I've gone on record before to say that he was probably the toughest person, most difficult person I've ever had to defend in 13 years playing in the NBL.
Oh, wow.
And I'm talking about going against Andrew Gaze and Lamar Copeland and Robert Rose and Ricky Grace and Terry Rucker and Shane Hill and so on and so on.
Yeah.
Steve Woodbury just, had the whole package. He was too strong for, the smaller guards. He played you outside. So, Steve Woodbury, I absolutely 100% agree with. Probably when I was coaching, I felt the guy that I would have loved to have started my team with at that point in time was Mark Worthington.
Yeah,
I thought he was a throwback to that, that tough bastard that would do anything it took to win, and was an absolute winner. And I love the way he went about his game. I mean, I'm also fortunate, as we've talked on this podcast before, about playing with some of the all-time greats. Like the Mark Davises and the Bruce Boltons and the Robert Roses and Brett Mars and so on and so on. But for me, I think Steve Woodbury was just for me was just unstoppable. I couldn't do anything with him, and I loved Wertho's toughness and all-round game. And when I was coaching, I'm going back 12 years now. I mean, if I had a choice, anyone in the NBL at that point in time, I would have started a team with him.
And I was watching the league closely, as you know, at that time as well, back early in my journey, and I love those battles that Wertho had with Sean Redditch and even with Adam Bellinger on your teams back in those days. It's remarkable that they were pretty much three-man those days. They all turned into finishing up their careers as power forwards, but that probably just goes to show how much the league's changed and how much the athleticism's probably grown.
Mate, it happened with a lot of the greats in this league. I mean, you look at three guys, when I was, Martin Catalani, Glenn Saville and Sam McKinnon, all started as three. Thomas Abercrombie was the same. Like they all three who, as they sort of morphed into the fours as they got a bit older and became potentially even more dangerous. They became unstoppable matchups. So I think that's a credit. The great, and I talk about the greats, and I don't talk about the good players in this league. Those guys who are all-time players, those Hall of Fame guys, they adapt their game. Their weaknesses then become their strengths. Like when Rob Rose came to Australia, he couldn't shoot the 3-point. He couldn't shoot the ball from the 3-point line. That became his absolute strength. 2 years later when he got to Adelaide. Like it was just, I think it's just, that's a testament to the superstars of the way they're able to adapt their game and overcome weaknesses and turn them into strengths. And, just amazes me, that level of ability and will to win and mentality, whatever you want to call it, that the superstars of this league have had. It's quite incredible.
Yeah, I mean, with Sean Redditch, it's a great example. For those early years when he was in Perth, he was the starting three-man, but the last year that he played in the State League over in WA, he was the starting centre on the team he was playing for. It's remarkable, the transition.
Absolutely. He still would have flopped about 4 times to get a charge.
Don't worry about that. He absolutely did, and surprisingly, he even admits it now. He never he was very, very funny about it when he was playing, but he'll happily admit to it now.
No, I'm only joking, mate. We had Dusty Reichardt in the team who was who would fall over with it if a stiff breeze came past him as well. But look, don't get me wrong. Like Reddy is one of the great superstars of our competition, and for a guy to come out of the feeble, and then get a chance in New Zealand, and that didn't, wasn't a successful stint for him.
I think it lasted 12 games.
For him to end up in the Wildcats and do what he did, and it's not just the caliber of play was, it's the success he had and the culture that he helped drive with those guys over there. There's a reason why the Wildcats, everyone looks up to them, and Redditch he's a Hall of Fame player in this league, and I've got nothing but admiration of him, and would have liked to have played with him. I reckon he would have been a bit of fun. So, but yeah, no, he's and once again, all those guys I've just mentioned previously, are all stars of this league, and we're fortunate enough to be able to reminisce and talk about some absolute legends of the game.
Absolutely, and we're both fortunate enough to know a lot of them personally, which is a big thrill, especially for someone like me who has no right to be able to talk to even someone like you, Scott, but it's a great honour that you have enough faith in me to be sitting here to do this show. So it's a great honour for me, and I hope everybody's enjoying hearing your insights. What do you make of the rest of the league right now? There are some teams like the 36ers that we haven't seen for a month. We haven't seen the Phoenix for a long time now. We haven't seen the Taipans for a little while. We haven't seen the Illawarra Hawks for a very long time. We've seen the New Zealand Breakers just get their first win of the season. They had a good win over the Bullets, who were coming out of being stuck in the COVID protocols for a week, and they probably played like it. The Wildcats have only played one game on the road so far, and that was up against a Cairns team that they beat, but that was a Cairns team not only without Machado and Jerick, but also without McCall, so we probably can't read too much into that. Melbourne United seems to be building a lot of momentum right now. It's tough to get much of an idea of how the league sits because everyone's in different situations, but what do you think of what the little bit that we have seen so far?
You're right, mate. It is really, really difficult. I mean, we've spoken about it. The Wildcats are going to be there at the end. The Phoenix, I think, are just, to me, don't really have much of a weakness at the moment. I mean, they're howling all over the place. And
they're about to bring in a new import too after sacking their other import who hadn't played yet.
Correct, and you know what Gordon's going to do with the Illawarra team, and you're right. I think Melbourne are building. To me, that's probably the four right now. Sydney, I'm not sure about. Once again, everything can change quickly, as we know. But there's probably are some teams to make up the numbers, and as those losses start to mount, I know New Zealand got that win yesterday, which was great for them, but when you see the owner on the bench telling the coach to put a player in, that's, and I think Andrew Goes mentioned that last night, that's not a healthy situation, and, that can only end in tears if, in fact, that's what did take place.
Well,
but,
I want to get your thoughts on that because you've been a head coach. If you had, whether it's your, general manager or, president or whatever role that person had, if it was the person running the club, he was telling you who to sub in, who to sub out, or what plays to run. When you're in charge of coaching the team, how would have you felt?
Well, it probably wouldn't have ended well. Probably wouldn't end well for me because I may have had to say something. But
I think that's the exact problem Dan Shammi's going to face it.
Well, it's funny you say that. Like when I was coaching in my first year, the owner of the team or the person that was supposedly the owner of the team. There was a bit of conjecture about that anyway. I turned around during a timeout and he was standing behind me. And, I didn't say anything because it was just such a surprise seeing there. But yeah, it's not a healthy situation. I mean, especially if you've got someone who doesn't know shit all about basketball who's standing there. What are you doing? You employ someone and put them in a place. If you don't trust them to do it, well, coach yourself. But I also understand if you're the owner and you're paying the bills, you can do whatever you want. I love the fact here in Adelaide that we have Grant Kelly, who's so passionate person about about Barstool and wanting to see the 36ers win. But, he puts people in place and let them do their job. And if they're not doing the job, we've seen that over the last couple of years, you'll get somebody else to do the job as well.
Sure,
so,
but it's the same with JVG. I mean, he makes the decisions on what players to sign, but you don't see him sitting on the sidelines telling CJ what to do.
Absolutely, and that is once again, if that's in fact what happened last night, that's an untenable position because it's just you can't just go and you can't go about and coach to the best of your ability if you're having someone tell you what to do. You can always make suggestions. You do it behind the scenes and you do it in team, in private meetings. You don't do it, in full front of the camera. But
Andrew Gaze raised a great point in the commentary. If he wants to be making those decisions, why doesn't he just coach the team himself? If he doesn't want the coach to actually be making the calls.
I love Andrew Gaze. I love him. I love him as a commentator. I love him as a player. I was fortunate enough to spend a couple of years with him in the Boomers team, and fortunate enough to go with him on a trip to China and coach with him. There's not one thing about Andrew Gaze I don't like. He's awesome, and it's a testament, I guess, to the NBL that we have someone of his caliber, that will universally go down. Well, I guess along with Leroy Loggins as the best players this league's ever seen, and
of course he was a Sixers fixed guest at one point.
Well, cool. We might have to get him back here one time.
Yeah,
I think we did that. We did that with Brett Maher, and he was commenting how good a job Brett did putting out the fires on Kangaroo Island. Brett,
you're right.
Brett, the closest Brett got to Kangaroo Island was sitting at my house that night. So, but no, that was good fun. We will get him back on, and that'll be good fun as well.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've got a game on Sunday to look forward to against the Jack Jumpers. I'm a little bit hesitant to do a full preview because we've done that with the Perth Wildcats games that we were meant to have, and they never happened. But fingers crossed it happens, Scott. We're all desperate for this game to go ahead. The best news will be Sunday Dech will be back out there. I spoke to him last week. He was absolutely jumping out of his skin. When I spoke to him, the game with the Wildcats was still meant to be going ahead on the Friday. He couldn't wait to get out there. He was ready to take on Bryce Cotton. He was back to full health again. But in the back of his mind, he also knew that he'd been running around that afternoon getting COVID tests with his girlfriend, and they weren't quite sure what would be happening the next day. The next day, the worst thing happened, and they were all sent home again, as you know, and those games never happened. So the good news is, when the team's back out there, Sunday will be back out there. How many of the issues that the team was having in those first 5 games can Sunday help solve?
Mate, most of them. The only good thing about this break is that Sunday is now healthy. I think we also got to be a little bit careful as, he hasn't played in probably 6 weeks. I'm not even sure.
It was that last game with the Blitz, which would have been late November, so it's going to be almost 6 or 7 weeks at least.
So this is the thing. You can't expect him to come out and play at superstar level. You just can't have that amount of time out of the game and expect him to be able to come back and he'll be elite defensively because that's what he is. But he's going to be rusty. I don't care what he's done at training. That's going to take time. But so people have got to understand that as well. But with your other question, how much of a difference could he have made? You're playing Perth in Perth, and Vic Law's going off. I know Vic Law's bigger than him. You can say, go and guard Vic Law and stop him.
I'll still put Sunday on him.
Now go back to Bryce Cotton and stop him. We play Illawarra here, and those Illawarra guards start going crazy. You put Sunday on them. He's just such an incredible defender. I know, I'm a fan, as anyone listening to this podcast will say. But, and I'll say it again, how he was not the top 3 players of defensive players of last year was an absolute disgrace. He just does everything. And once again, having seen what he did in the off season, and he was the best player at 36ers in the pre-season. His defense was always at the same level. what he'd done in the gym, like, you know, he was just bullying people, and what he'd done offensively as well. And this is, I spoke to someone about this last week, and I don't want to pump too much sunshine up Brett Maher's ass, because everybody does that, and everyone kisses his ass, and I hate it, and I don't like talking about it. But Sunday saw a deficiency in his game, which was inconsistency in his perimeter game.
Yep.
So he rang up Brett Maher and just asked him to come and have a look at his shot and work out with him on an individual basis. You know, like, that was not something that, yeah, that's just a guy who's just wanting to get absolute best out of his ability and sourcing out, you know, the best shooter that the club's had in the last 20 years. So, you know, that injury is such a shame, because he would have hit the season, you know, on absolute fire.
Yeah.
But it is going to take him time to get back into that, because he's just spent so much time out of the game.
Yep, absolutely. First time the Jack Jumpers have come to town. They've had an up and down start. It's a tough thing to say, but you look at their team on paper, and they're probably the least talented team across the league, but they're playing with a lot of heart right now. They make themselves tough to beat, which is a good quality to have, and I reckon they're really well coached. I think defensively they're really strong. They don't have the same offensive weapons as other teams, but you know, they're well drilled, they're well coached, and sometimes they get beaten just on, you know, not having enough talent and you know, not shooting the ball great, which happens. But what you can guarantee from them on Sunday is that they'll come in and give 100% effort, which is a nice trait to have.
Absolutely. You know, that could be the 36ers team that comes out the same way we did in Perth. I mean, you know, team that plays with heart, and you know, Jack McVeigh will be up for the challenge coming back in here. But they play hard, and you know, they'll give a good account of themselves. So I reckon you're right. They are well coached. I reckon. The coach has set a reasonable screen himself, to be honest with you. He'd get a couple of players open. But, look, once again, you would say it's a game that we should win, but who the hell knows? I mean, there's no form or any recent games to back anything of. But, you know, purely from a talent point of view, you would say the 36ers should win, and you know, they probably need to for their own, own sake, you know, to come out and get their season back on track, because who knows after that when the next game, I mean, who knows how the rest of the season is going to play off. I know there's some thoughts within the 36ers organisation that they might get sent on the road, a la New Zealand for, if not the rest of the season, but certainly a couple of months, and I'm sure, you know, that's something the NBA was looking at, some sort of bubble or whatever you want to call it. But I'm sure there's contingency, you know, A, B, C, D, and E at the moment. But let's just hope this game goes ahead on Sunday. Yep. You know, we all get out there and we watch a good 36ers win.
Important for the fans, I think, as well, to be rewarded for turning up. I mean, the first couple of home games weren't great, even though there was a win over the Breakers in there. How important is it for the home fans to, I guess, be rewarded for turning up? We're hoping, you know, 5,000 or 6,000 at least turn up on Sunday. How important is it for the team to actually give them something to be happy about?
Mate, it's going to be a tricky one, because, you know, people aren't going out at the moment either. So it's, you know, that's the other thing. People are worried about going into an environment where there's a lot of numbers, and obviously there's going to be people in there with COVID. Now, I know there's rules and regulations, but
do you have to prove that you're double vaxxed to get in? Do you know? You
do, okay. Absolutely. Yep. So check in, show your check-in, also show your double vaccination. So you can go in there with confidence. You've got to wear a mask, all that sort of stuff. But I think people are just nervous at the moment. So look, I know that the Barton Tragics will be there. I'll certainly, but Brett and I will certainly be there, and you know, everyone's looking forward to seeing basketball again. I think it's going to be really difficult to get a really big crowd, but you know, just because of the current circumstances. But I know the club's doing everything in their power, and there's some you can get some great prices on tickets at the moment, and I'd certainly encourage everyone to come out and you know, support this team. I mean, it's you know, they're you know, these guys are doing it hard, and as I said, you know, we can be back on the 50-50 split by the end of the weekend, and all of a sudden things aren't looking that bad. But even after a couple of ordinary games, which hopefully we've forgotten about by now.
I mean, just the last one on the game. CJ made a great point that this is pretty much like the first game of pre-season in a lot of ways, because they've been training, when they've been able to get together, they've been training, but only training against themselves. And when you're training against yourselves, everything looks great and it looks like you're going well. But until you test yourselves against real opposition, you just don't actually know where you're at. And it will have been a month since that last game. I mean, I don't think any of us know what to expect. I mean, and the team itself probably doesn't know what to expect. What would it be like if you put your playing shoes back on, coming out, playing a regular season game, but having not played at all for a month?
All the more reason to go gung ho, mate.
Sure.
To come out and play with absolute reckless abandon. I don't care if they come out and dribble the ball off their foot and miss their first 10 shots. And get in early foul trouble. As long as they're coming out and showing that endeavour and that absolute desperation to try and do things right. Yeah, they haven't played for a while. Neither have the Jack Jumpers, so they're going to be in the same boat. Come out and show that desire that's been missing. Obviously in that Cairns game in the first half against New Zealand here. Come out with absolute desperation and mistakes are going to happen. Don't let that affect you. Come out here with absolute balls to the wall and show that that crowd, and the people watching at home. If they come out and see a product and they see some players that are playing for that name on the front of the jersey, they'll be on board. And the result will take care of itself then as well. So come out just with absolute desperation, and they'll be okay. Because we've already spoken about talent. They do have more talent than the Jack Jumpers. They've got to come out and match them for intensity and heart and desire, and the rest will take care of itself.
Yep, couldn't agree more. All right, Scott, it's been fun having our first episode of 2022. It's been a long time in between games, but we have put together an episode. We hope that all of our preview of Sunday is worth it and the game goes ahead. If you get the chance to get out to the entertainment centre, do so to support the boys on Sunday. And as Scott said earlier, thank you to our sponsors for making this show possible. We simply couldn't be here without you. So thank you to Premium Wine Tours for bringing us our Player of the Year award. Thank you to Australian Motors Mitsubishi for our Player of the Week. We'll be back with both of those awards, hopefully after a better performance from the team on Sunday. Thank you to Sports Card World for bringing us the Ask the Coach segment. And of course, thank you to the support of Kelly Barnes and All-Star Photos. If you need any photography done, anything related to basketball, make sure you get in touch with Kelly and he'll take care of you because he's the best in the business. So thank you for all of our partners for making this show possible. I'm Chris Pike and I'll sign off for this week and leave you with the wise words of an ever weary father, Scott Ninnis, who can't wait to get out of the house on Sunday.
Oh, mate, absolutely. So, no, looking forward to just seeing the NBL again. It's did you see Clay Thompson today with the Warriors?
Man, did you see that dunk that he started with?
My goodness, you look for feel good stories in basketball and in life in general, but that out of the game for 2 years and gets that dunk down the middle and scores 17 points in 20 minutes. I reckon I could fit him into my South Adelaide team if he wants to have a holiday out in Adelaide during the off season. But no, all good, mate. We're just looking forward to seeing a good 36 win on Sunday.